the trowels we're going to use in our trowel durability test. You may notice that there's different shapes of trowels and different sizes of trowels here. We're not really testing that, as those are preferences to the individual bricklayer. What we are testing is the durability of the manufacturing process and the durability of the materials used in each trowel. The test is going to consist of 4 stages. First, I'm going to go over the features of each trowel and then test them individually, mimicking job site conditions. In the first stage is the drop test, mimicking a trowel being dropped from scaffolding. I'm going to spike each trowel onto a concrete floor 10 times, and we'll see how they hold up. In the second stage, I'm going to be cutting brick using the heel of each trowel, cutting a very common brick here in the United States. In the third stage, I'm going to bang the trowel on block, the back of the trowel, the blade of the trowel on block, mimicking a bricklayer cleaning their trowel in the morning. In the fourth stage, I'm going to be testing the handle of the trowel by smashing brick down with the butt end of the handle. We'll see how the trowels hold up, and I think there may be some surprises. This is the ATE Pro USA. This trowel is made in China. This is a 2-piece trowel, meaning the blade was made at one time and the shank and handle were made at another time, then welded together during the final stages of manufacturing. With 2-piece trowels, they're usually sharp back here. This area isn't finished off. This handle is relatively small, about 5 1/4 inches in length and about 1 1/8 in width. An instructor told me that you can tell the quality of steel of a trowel by how long it rings after you flick it. I'm going to hold this to the microphone and we'll see how long it rings. Drop test with the ATE Pro USA. After the second drop, looks like we cracked the handle. After the third drop, the handle completely broke off. I'm gonna eliminate this trowel from the rest of the competition. This is the Me trowel. This trowel is made in Italy. This is either a 2-piece trowel, or this might even be a 3-piece trowel, where the handle and shank were made at one time, then welded, it looks like, onto the frog, and it looks like the frog may have separately been welded onto the blade of the trowel. Back here is sharp. This handle feels good. It has an extra little bit of butt end here. This handle is 6 1/8 inches long by about 1 1/4 inches wide. Drop test for the Me trowel. Me trowel is still in nice shape. Let me see, maybe slightly deformed back here where the shank meets the blade. Maybe a little bit of curvature of the blade, but overall it held up just fine. This is the Tyzac trowel. The Tyzac trowel is made in
fish and chips.
Single piece construction where the back of the shank meets the blade. That is real nice and smooth. tapered blade, a little thicker back here than it is towards the toe of the trowel. The handle feels really nice. It feels skinny to me. I can feel the name Tyzac in the handle. Not a big fan of feeling that. The butt end of the trowel protrudes a little bit. That might be replaceable. I'm not sure. The handle is about 6 1/4 by 1 1/8. So it's not really that much skinnier than the others, if at all. But it feels, I don't know, this trowel just feels nice. Some extra work done back here. You can tell it was run through a sander or something. Been ground down real nice, and even around the frog. I think this might be one of the front runners for this durability test. Tyzac trowel drop test. The Tyzac trowel's durability is just fine. Some scuffs here on the handle, a little on the butt of the trowel. The blade is still straight. Still looks and feels real nice. This is the Ox trowel. Ox is an Australian company, though this trowel is made in This is one-piece construction, meaning the shank was welded to the blade before the forging process. It's a little more expensive to make this way, but it should add to the durability of the trowel. Features of this trowel include a separate butt end that may be replaceable. The handle feels really nice. The rubber of this handle feels really nice. Though I'm not a big fan, and this is just my preference, of feeling the manufacturer's logo or emblem in the trowel. I prefer when it's smooth, and this sort of has a texture to it. Where the shank meets the blade, it's been rounded over. Some extra work has been performed on this trowel so that this isn't sharp right here. Even where the frog meets the blade, some extra work making that seam not so noticeable. Even around here, around the heel, some extra grinding has been performed to smooth this out so it's not sharp. It also has a tapered design, meaning the trowel blade is a little thicker in this area than it is towards the toe of the trowel. This is a real nice trowel, and it feels really good. I think this is going to be one of the front runners in this durability competition. The handle of the trowel is 6 1/4 inches long from the shank and about 1 1/4 inches wide. Let's listen to it. Ox trowel drop test. After the first drop, seems the butt of the trowel has separated from the handle a little bit. After the second drop, the butt of the handle came completely out. It looks like this was glued in to the handle. The ox trowel is still okay, besides the butt of the handle coming off. Still feels good. That butt can be replaced. The blade is still straight. Nothing else broke. Still in okay shape. This is a W Rose trowel. This is the type of trowel that I was first issued when I started my apprenticeship. This is one-piece construction. The back of the trowel, where the shank meets the blade, has been done over real nice. That's nice and smooth. Wood handle, metal ferrule. The W Rose trowel is made in has a tapered blade, a little thicker back here than it is towards the toe. The set or rise of the handle is the lowest of the bunch, meaning that this is pretty horizontal. This handle doesn't come up too much of an angle. The lowest set of any trowel in our test. The handle measures 6 1/8 inches long by about 1 1/4 inches wide. Let's listen to the steel. Rose trowel drop test. First drop, didn't do anything to the trowel, but it did take a chunk of concrete off the block. The drop test from the Rose trowel did just fine. Maybe a slight dent on the ferrule here just barely. The handle held up just fine. Pushed some wood into the handle here, but the handle didn't break or crack or anything. Blade is still nice. It's still in great shape. This is the Anvil trowel. Anvil is made in
China.
This is two-piece construction with a big fat weld where the shank meets the blade. On the back here, back of the shank, this is not good. We have a hole here in the weld. That looks like a nice area for water to get into and just sit, rust out, and perhaps separate the handle from the blade. This handle is nice rubber, feels good. The butt of the trowel is a harder plastic. I can feel the emblem in the handle. The blade is slightly tapered, slightly thicker back here, slightly thinner towards the toe. The handle measures 6 1/8 by about 1 1/8 inches wide. Let's listen to the steel. Anvil trowel drop test. After 10 drops with the Anvil trowel, it's still in great shape. Some plastic got shoved in on the butt of the handle. Right here, there might be a hole through that handle, through the rubber, but still feels fine. The weld held up, no cracks in the weld. I thought these two-piece trowels, you know what? There is a slight crack in the weld. Right at the very top. There is the slightest crack in the weld. That might be separating. Still in okay shape. This is the Contractor's X trowel. Contractor's X trowel is made in
China.
This is two-piece construction. It looks like they painted over the weld here where the shank meets the blade. Back here, unfinished, pretty sharp. The handle of this trowel feels gummy. It's not quite a hard plastic. It's kind of gummy and has these ridges going around it. All one piece, no separate butt end. The blade is not tapered at all. Same thickness here as it is towards the toe of the trowel. The handle measures about 5 inches from the shank and about 1 1/8 inches wide. Let's listen to the steel, if this is steel. Contractor's X drop test. After the first drop, didn't think this would happen. The weld is definitely separating. And the handle is now offset a good bit. Second drop, you can see that weld coming off. This is the advantage of one-piece construction versus two-piece construction. This being two-piece construction. I think it might have one more drop in it. And that's it. The handle completely separated from the blade. Three drops and eliminate it. This is a Husky trowel. This trowel is made in China. This is single piece construction. The back of the shank feels really nice where it meets the blade. Some extra work has been done there. This butt end is definitely replaceable just with a screwdriver. The handle feels decent, though I can feel the emblem and the name of the trowel as it protrudes from the handle. This blade is tapered a little thicker back here than it is towards the toe. The handle is 6 1/4 inches long by 1 1/4 inches wide. Let's listen to this. Husky trowel drop test. There are 10 drops with the Husky trowel. This looks great. Handle barely marked up. Butt of the trowel, I know one of those drops came right onto the butt of the trowel, barely marked up. It's like the guard here in the back got a little divot in it, but it's not broke or anything. The blade, slight, barely noticeable, slight curve towards the tip, towards the toe. Slight curve of the blade. But that is it. Still in nice shape. This is the Marshalltown trowel. Marshalltown is made in America. One-piece construction. Real nice where the back of the shank meets the blade of the trowel. This butt end is replaceable with a screwdriver. Handle feels real nice. Nice rubberized handle. Although I can feel the Marshalltown name. You know, when Marshalltown first started off making trowels, their name wasn't in the handle. And I kind of preferred that. This blade is definitely tapered, thicker back here than towards the toe. The handle is about 6 1/4 inches long by 1 1/4 inches wide. Let's listen to the steel. Marshalltown trowel drop test. What? What? What is that? What is that? Oh. All right. All right. Can't bet back with my hand. Keep going. That's 10 drops with the Marshalltown trowel. This is a crusher. I'm gonna bend that back. You know what? Maybe it's the thinness of this trowel. I know Marshalltown trowels are definitely thinner than other trowels. Not making excuses, but I'm gonna bend that back. The rest of the trowel, a little bit of a mark here. We'll say the ferrule. The handle, the butt is in great shape. I'm gonna bend that back. We'll keep this trowel in the competition. After the first stage of the durability test, we've already lost a couple trowels. The ATE Pro had the handle broken off. Contractors X had the handle broken off. Those two are eliminated from the rest of the competition. This ox handle lost the butt end of the trowel. I'm going to plug that back in for the next stage. Marshalltown trowel, tip of it got a little wonky. Tried to straighten that out best I could. And the anvil trowel, looks like the weld started separating from the blade. The next part of the test is brick cutting. These are the brick we're going to use for the next stage of the test. These are what are called 52 DDs in the States. This is a very common brick made by a few different manufacturers in the States. These are a solid brick. All I'm going to do is try to cut one brick into 4 parts with each trowel using one heel from the trowel. This is the Comey trowel from Italy. That's good. This is just fine. A little rough, but no bends. Now we're going to go to the ox trowel. Ox trowel did just fine. Doesn't even feel rough. Tyzac trowel. Tyzac trowel, just fine. W Rose. W Rose, just fine. I don't even feel anything. Anvil Trowel from China. Anvil Trowel did just fine. Doesn't look like that weld is separating anymore. Husky Trowel. That felt pretty good. Husky Trowel, just fine. Don't even feel anything. Marshalltown Trowel. Marshalltown Trowel did just fine. That went pretty quick. I'm going to run through that test again. Same order. Comey Trowel from Italy. Just fine. I can feel a little bit of a burr, but it's just fine. Ox Trowel. Ox Trowel did just fine again. The butt, even though I put it back in, started separating again. Zach Trowel. Zach Trowel feels good. Even when hitting the brick, it just feels solid. A little bit of a burr on the edge. Still in good shape. Rose. Great shape. Don't even feel a burr. Anvil. Anvil does a great job of cutting these brick. Feels dead when I hit the brick, which I guess is a good feeling. The Anvil Trowel, a little bit of a burr, and the weld still looks good. Husky Trowel. The Husky Trowel, almost same as the Anvil. Feels kind of dead. I hit the brick. Feels good. Marshalltown. Marshalltown. Did just fine. Don't even feel anything. Now we're going to smack the back of the trowel against this concrete block. This is mimicking a bricklayer leaving their trowel dirty in their bag and the next morning giving it a few hits up against the wall or against block to clean it off. I'm going to hit the trowel 25 times on this concrete block. Usually, if your trowel's dirty, you might hit it once or twice on a block. This is representing many weeks, maybe months of hits against the block wall. 25 times. This is the Comey trowel from Italy. Okay, let's take a look at what happens. Take a look at the toe of the trowel. It bent out. Let's take a look at the heel of the trowel. We have a crack in the blade and a small bend. Not at the heel, heel's out here, but where the shank meets the blade, right at the base of the frog, we'll say. Trowel is still together, still usable. Start developing a crack and a bend in the Comey trowel. And the handle has become slightly offset. It's bending this way. Ox trowel, 25 times. Ox trowel. Let's see. Tip, maybe barely slightly bent. The butt end came off during that test. The handle still looks excellent. No damage, except that butt end fell off again. That might need to be glued back in. Looks good. Tie-zack trowel. Tie-zack trowel. Tip bent slightly. The blade is still straight. The handle is still straight to the blade. Let me get a closer look at this. If anything, it looks like this handle slightly bent this way. Just the handle. Looking at it real close. Looks like this handle might be just slightly bent. You see that? Still in great shape. Rose trowel. Rose trowel. Tip slightly bent. Blade is still straight. Handle still straight to the trowel. Still in great shape. Anvil trowel. All right, anvil trowel. Got a crack in the back right now. The weld is sort of separating now from the blade. That crack is getting definitely bigger. The blade is bent. The toe of the trowel has a burr on it. I don't know if that happened from the drop test. Maybe I missed it earlier. The handle, big time offset from the trowel right now. The handle's pushed over this way.
still usable, but barely. Husky trowel. Wow. Not expecting that. Husky trowel broke in the middle of the blade. That is wild. I've never seen that, I don't think. Broke in the middle of the blade. Husky trowel. Eliminated. I thought this was going to be the front runner. One of them. Marshalltown. Marshalltown trowel. The tip still bent. That's really from before. I don't think it bent anymore. The handle still straight on. Still looks good to the rest of the trowel. Marshalltown. I don't think there was any damage in that part of the test. Very nice.
After round 3, we've lost a couple trowels. The Husky, eliminated, broken. I'm also going to eliminate the Anvil trowel. You can see how offset that handle is right now. And the hole through the blade. We've lost 2 trowels that round. With the Comey trowel looking to be probably the next one eliminated. It's still holding on. Marshalltown, Ox, Tyzac, and Rose still up top. Now we're going to be testing the durability of the handles of the trowels, more specifically the butt end of the trowel. I'm going to hit it pretty much as hard as I can 25 times onto this concrete block. We'll see if it does anything. Didn't really do much, but hurt my hand. Cut up a little bit of the butt end. This trowel is still barely holding on. Still has that crack right where the shank meets the blade. Ox trowel, put the butt back on. Ox trowel is just fine with that butt end put back on. Tyzac. Tyzac, the butt of the trowel is just fine. Just a little chewed up. Not bad. Rose. This is the only trowel with the wooden handle. Sort of an unfair disadvantage. Let's give it a shot, see how it does. That worked out just fine. No cracks. Mushroomed the handle slightly. Can almost fix that just with my fingernail. Rose did excellent. Marshalltown. Marshalltown, butt of the trowel did excellent. Barely even marked up. It's actually still very smooth. Very nice. That was a lot of abuse that these trowels took in just a span of a couple minutes. I would say that was about 2 years worth of use in that short time frame. I'm going to walk through each trowel and tell you my thoughts on it. This was the first trowel that got eliminated. This was the ATE Pro. I didn't have high hopes for it. It was a two-piece design made in China. The handle was real small. Didn't feel that great right from the get-go. Eliminated right away. Just not that great quality of construction. Now, even with this trowel, a bricklayer can build anything with this trowel. It's not so much the trowel brand or how they're made that determines how well brickwork or blockwork gets done. We'll compare it to, let's say, Michael Jordan. If he wasn't wearing Jordan sneakers, would he have still been the best player in the NBA at the time? Sure. If he was wearing Converse All-Stars, if he was in bare feet, he probably still would have been the best player. Still would have been the top professional basketball player. Don't get too hung up on tools and which ones are the best, which ones are the worst. You can still do great work with even these cheaper tools. The Contractor's X trowel didn't last too long. The weld, this was a two-piece design made in China. The weld broke with just a few drops. Now those drops sort of represented a trowel falling off of scaffold, I would say from about 40 feet high onto a concrete floor. Not out of the realm of possibilities. Trowels fall off the scaffold all the time. But that broke. Made in China, two-piece design. I didn't have high hopes for this trowel either. The handle. Now that the handle's broken off, the handle is pretty heavy. The Husky trowel. This was a surprise. This was single-piece construction, made in China. This trowel felt pretty durable to me when cutting brick with it. Felt good. The handle felt good. I think with this particular trowel, this steel is actually too hard. Steel can be too hard, and it became brittle. And instead of bending, it snapped. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just with the metallurgy of this blade, the steel is just too hard, and it snapped right in half when we were smacking it against the concrete block. So they do have a lifetime warranty. That Husky trowel, made in China. This Anvil trowel, made in China. The weld started breaking from the drop test, early on in the drop test. It cut brick okay, but then the weld started breaking some more. The handle became offset. This is a cheaper trowel, two-piece design. Again, maybe without so much abuse, it would last many years. But I doubt it, especially with the hole in the back here where water and moisture can just sit in there and just eat away at that weld and at the blade. There wasn't high hopes for this trowel, made in China. The 4 trowels that were made in China were eliminated. They all broke. Even the Husky one-piece. This Co-Me trowel, made in Italy. This one barely made it. Made it, but just barely. Tip bent. The blade is a single thickness all the way through. Cracked back here. I had sort of high hopes for this trowel when it came in the mail, and then I realized that it was either a 2-piece or a 3-piece design, and I'm surprised that it held up as long as it did. So this can last you. I'm gonna go to the ox trowel. I really like this trowel. I really like the handle of this trowel. They changed up their handles. Their old handles used to look like this. Had this black line, this black hard piece of plastic running through the handle. And their name also imprinted on the handle. The handle just didn't feel good, and this hard black plastic part protrudes or sticks out past the top of the handle. I'm glad they switched up this handle. Even though it still has the name in it, this handle feels really good. The durability of this trowel was excellent. Besides the tip bending slightly, I think that was from when we were banging it on the concrete, and the butt end popping off early on. This trowel held up really nice. I like ox trowels. So much so that this ox trowel, taped up handle, this was going to be my go-to trowel for competitions. Believe it or not, they have bricklaying competitions, and I'll talk about that in future videos. This trowel worked the best for me until I tried another trowel. I really like this small ox trowel for competitions. This is one of the older versions. Their newer version with this handle is pretty nice. Feels really good. Tyzac trowel from the UK. This held up really nice. Tip got a little bent in the smacking. That can be bent back, no problem. The handle, the handle itself might be slightly bent, slightly. That's really not that big of a deal. This held up really nice. I really like the feel of this trowel. I like the feel of this handle too. Real nice trowel from the UK. Now, I think these trowels, the ox trowel, this Tyzac trowel, Marshalltown trowel, and the rose trowel, have a softer metal, we'll say, than that husky one that broke earlier. This trowel feels awesome. This was the only Philadelphia pattern trowel. This trowel was from London, although it's a Philadelphia pattern trowel, shipped from London to Philadelphia. Rose trowel held up awesome. This was issued to me as an apprentice. Rose got their start, I think, in making swords, and they started making trowels later on. This trowel, even with the wood handle, survived all that smashing and beating with the butt of the trowel. This held up great. A little bend on the toe. Not bad overall. Awesome trowel. The last one we'll talk about is the Marshalltown trowel. These are sold all over the world. When Marshalltown, little history about my use with Marshalltown. I remember the first time I saw another bricklayer using a Marshalltown trowel. I was using a rose trowel. His work was cleaner than my work, and I couldn't understand how he was doing it. I was using the same technique as him, cutting the mortar away just the same as him, but his work was cleaner than mine. And for some reason, it was the trowel. I started to use his trowel. So let me try that. And my work started being cleaner. The blade thickness, maybe slightly thinner than a rose trowel. Definitely softer than a rose trowel. That's not a bad thing. The blade bent during the drop test, and I could bend that back a little better. The handle felt great, lasted, even when smashing the block. It's still shiny on the butt end of the handle. That's how durable these handles are. In the brick cutting, it did just fine. And I'm gonna stick with my Marshalltown trowel. I use a Marshalltown trowel, a 10.5 narrow heeled London. And it works great for me. That's what I like. In competitions, I also use a Marshalltown trowel. A Coke trowel, C-O-K-E. This is what I use in bricklaying competitions. This works well for the method that I use in laying brick. This is a very, very thin blade. Not really used for bricklaying. This is more of an oversized margin trowel. However, the technique that I use, this trowel works great for me. A Marshalltown trowel. So I use a Marshalltown trowel in my everyday bricklaying, and I use a different Marshalltown trowel in competition bricklaying. I hope you learned something from this video. Trowels are made differently, different styles, different patterns, different sizes, different materials. If you learn anything, I would say stay away from the trowels made in China. They were the ones that were eliminated. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.